So in today's video, we are going to be discussing features that Greenville never added. And these are all features that Greenville has said they would add in the past, but unfortunately for whatever reason, they never did. And today we're going to be going through some of them and discussing whether or not they would have actually been good features or not. Additionally, before we do get started with today's video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe as we are on the road to 15.9k subscribers, so it would be greatly appreciated. Also, for those of you guys who would like to join my filming crew and have a chance at participating in some of my future videos, make sure to join my Discord server in the description below. But without further ado, let's get straight into the video. Okay, so the first feature here is actually kind of multiple features in one, and it's actually regarding GVOS. And for those of you guys who don't know, GVOS is actually the phone operating system in Greenville, and this was one of the most hyped up features in Greenville at one point, but there were a lot of features that were supposed to come to this that never came for some reason. So the biggest one that I'm going to be discussing first is actually the operating system that GVOS was going to have for computers in game. So we only have actually got one teaser image for this, and as you guys can see, it just looked like a basic desktop with the GVOS symbol in the bottom corner, and that was basically it. But this was actually a part of the initial concept for GVOS, and basically the way how I'm assuming it would have worked is that if in your house, for example, you went onto your computer, it would have probably popped up with like a GUI of some sort that you could use in order to interact with your in-game computer like a real computer, and it would have likely included a lot of the same features that GVOS now currently does, but obviously in a computer format. I think what probably happened though was that the devs probably just realized this wouldn't be a feature that people would use that often, especially since they'd already have a whole phone that they could use. They wouldn't really have any use to use the computer, so they essentially just limited it to that. And then some more features that GVOS was supposed to actually have that never came to it is GVOS crashing and fake latency, as in web loading, and depending on what specs your device had, fake latency depending on that. Obviously though, we know now that there is only one model of GVOS phone, so that couldn't even be a thing now. And it's quite interesting that fake latency for web loading was actually a planned thing, since there is no sort of internet app that we have. So I honestly would have been interested to see how that would have panned out. But yeah, obviously there is no actual latency on GVOS phones nowadays, which I mean, I'm kind of glad, because it would have been kind of annoying to have stuff like that, to be completely honest. But let me know what you guys think about that one. The next one here is extra weather event. So for those of you guys who don't know, if you actually bring up your command bar in Greenville and do :weather, it'll actually pop up with a weather menu. And currently the ones that we have is sunny, light clouds, cloudy, overcast, light snow, snow, blizzard. And in other seasons, such as like spring and summer and stuff, we have rain instead of snow. However, what a lot of people don't actually realize is that in 2020, weather was actually already a planned feature. And something that Smears said is that weather is going to be one of the things I pour the most time into. There won't just be rain or snow or heavy snow. There'll be a lot more weather events. And although it was confirmed that there wouldn't be any extreme weather events, I'm kind of interested to see what other events were actually planned, because ultimately that is really all we got. So it is definitely possible that they might have tried to add more events, but for some reason it just didn't work out, or they might have just forgotten about it as a whole, but I'm really not sure, to be honest. And it would definitely be really cool to see them update the weather system again in the future to add more stuff. Next up is actually a pretty interesting feature, which I can see why it wasn't added, but this is actually trains. And essentially what the planned suggestion actually was add trains that pass through the map every once in a while, sort of like how planes sort of fly through the sky every once in a while. Now it's definitely understandable as to why this feature wasn't added ultimately, as unlike the plane, which literally just flies in a straight path and it's in the sky so it can't obstruct the players, trains are on ground, which obviously means that there are more bugs prone to happen. And additionally, since they follow tracks like this one for example, they don't just move in a straight line constantly, which means the devs would have to actually code it so it can move specifically in the tracks, which is honestly just a very tedious process for such a small feature. And trains would only actually really be a good feature if they served a good purpose. For example, if you could like pay a certain amount of money to ride the train to a certain location, but apart from that, it honestly just wouldn't really make much sense. And ultimately, that's likely why trains were never added. Now, as to if trains will ever be added in the future, I have no idea, but I guess we can only really find out as time goes on. The next one here is actually a very cool feature that I still think has a lot of potential of being added in the future, and this is actually motorcycles. So around 2 years ago now, it was actually posted that a new uniform UI would be coming to the game, and this did ultimately come to the game, but there was actually a small section in this that said motorcycle, and there was a lot of confusion about this, so Barker's actually had to post a separate message saying, just to be clear, motorcycles have been planned and are still a planned feature that we'd like to implement into the game. The motorcycle button was just added as a concept. So this shows that the devs were actually planning on still adding motorcycles at this time, and since there is probably no reason for them to have cancelled it by now, they probably are still planning on it, but for whatever reason they still haven't added it. Now in my opinion, the main reason why they probably haven't added motorcycles yet isn't because it's too hard for them to make them, or it's too hard for them to, you know, implement them into the game in a good way. It's likely just because they aren't their main focus, and especially with Unreleased, with Greenville having to switch to all fictional vehicles, that is honestly what they're mainly focusing on right now. And to add a whole nother genre of vehicles into the game on top of what they're already doing right now, it would honestly just be really stressful. And if they ever are going to add in motorcycles, then it's probably only going to be within like the next year or two, most likely. Mainly because by that point, hopefully most of the fictional cars will be complete. The next one here is overall kind of weird, and this is actually driver's licenses. So just over 2 years ago now, a driver's license image was actually posted in future updates, and it was said by Bargus that all info shown here is not final and is subject to change. But as you guys can can see, it essentially says driver's license, and it was essentially meant to show you what your avatar looked like, your name and game, your address, and your height. And this was actually never added for some reason. Now, a lot of you guys may be wondering, well, why would a game like Greenville even need driver's licenses? And the reason for this is because that, for example, in roleplay servers, when you get pulled over and they ask you for your license, this would be really cool for realism purposes, where you would actually have to hand them like a physical license instead of just saying hand license, and you have to sort of roleplay it out as if you actually gave them something. But the thing is that although at face value it seems like a really cool feature, it is honestly a very niche one, as it would only really be useful in roleplay servers, because even though people also sometimes do that stuff in public servers, it's just not really as common, and it's not really worth the devs' time making a feature like that a lot of people aren't even going to end up using, since a good chunk of GV's player base is still only playing in public servers. Now the next feature here is actually Odometers. Now this is a feature that has been planned for years on end now, ever since the revamp came out, and for some reason it's just never been added, and I honestly have no clue why, as in my opinion there's not really any actual valid reason as to why they couldn't add this, and it would honestly be a very useful feature too, because then you could actually tell how long you've driven each car that you own for, and in my opinion it probably wouldn't be too hard of a feature to add either, since Greenville already counts the amount of studs you drive anyways, and that's how you get paid from driving, so it would basically be a very similar system to that, but just like it would actually show you the exact amount. But I don't know, it's actually a very interesting one because it gets brought up a lot, but it's never added for whatever reason, and it's honestly just a feature that so many people would like to see. The next one here is actually trailers, and this is a feature that has been requested so heavily, especially in recent times. Now I feel like trailers would be a very interesting feature because a lot of other roleplay games out there don't actually have them either, and I don't even 100% know how they would be properly implemented, since there would be a lot of physics involved with them. Like for example, it would actually have to turn with your car and stuff like that, and there's a potential that it could be a very buggy feature if it were to ever be added, especially while playing with other players, and that could easily be why it still hasn't been added. But the thing is that it is a planned feature, so it's kind of confusing as to why they would plan it if they knew that they couldn't add it. So that does mean that there is definitely potential that it could come in the future. Personally, I think it's probably that they're just trying to find actual good use for it, because sure, they might be able to add trailers into the game and make them function and whatnot, but what's the point of having trailers if you can't do anything with them? But even if you couldn't do anything with them, I think it would honestly just be kind of cool to have trailers in general, as they do look quite cool on some vehicles, and they would just be quite cool for RP purposes as well. Now the last feature that Greenville unfortunately never added is actually vehicle test driving. So like a lot of the other features on this list, this was actually also a planned feature, but for whatever reason has never been implemented into the game. In the past as well, there's also been a lot of concepts as to how this could actually work, and a lot of people have actually made mock-up GUIs as well, showing like what it could look like and stuff in game, and it honestly looks super cool. But once again, it was never added for some reason, and I honestly think the main reason why it was never added is because that the devs are probably afraid of people abusing the system. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys did enjoy it, once again, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. We are on the road to 15.9k subscribers, so it would be greatly appreciated. Also, for those guys who would like to and haven't already, make sure to join my Discord server in the description below. My filming applications are now open. But anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video.